Hello, Mindy.
Hi, Julie.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was just writing some questions before I popped in. Do you want to go ahead and put the moderator bean on me? I don't know. Can I make myself a moderator? I don't think so.
I was going to say, how do I do that? Let's see.
Tap on my profile and you'll see an option.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and mute you and just do my little spiel here in the beginning. I'm a little rusty, so this will be a super casual conversation. I hope everyone has been having a good break and enjoying this last week of the year. This is usually a week for me where I spend a lot of time going inward. I don't really like to focus on New Year's resolutions or goals per se, but just kind of clearing up loose ends, reviewing the year, and seeing what's possible for the new year. And I've obviously kind of been in that energy probably for the last month, but I'm actively now taking strides to organize my space and clear out energy and just take care of things that have been kind of nagging me so I don't carry that energy into the new year. So maybe you can relate to that. And I feel like as a collective, we're all kind of feeling those pushes to reinvent ourselves for the new year. But I definitely like to, as a highly sensitive person, go very slow. I give January my full grace month to step into new ideas and new habits that I want to create for myself. But what I'm really excited about is we'll be talking about a lot of cool things in January that will kind of help shape your future vision for yourself. And I hope that my second year in Clubhouse is just a more elevated version. I cannot believe it's almost been 1 year. We will celebrate 1 year middle of January, and I have a couple dates in the calendar to just come together and hang out as highly sensitive people. So if you're available, please check out the calendar. I've just added a bunch of stuff, and I will be adding more for January. And if there is a topic that's meaningful for you or really matters or you're itching to talk about, please know that my back channel is open. You can always send me a message. And for now, I am on Instagram, so you can always connect with me there as well. But in January or in 2022, I will be moving away from social media, and we will be talking about that in rooms as well. So there's a lot to process at this time of year, but I'm really excited. And I'm really excited that Mindy and I are finally talking today. She has been such a great part of the HSP community. She's helped co-moderate rooms. She has just published a book about horses that she collaborated with other authors. I'm excited for her to share that with us. And I don't know what kind of practice she'll have for us today because she said it's been raining, but she was hoping to connect with the horses physically. But I'll let her share what she ends up working with us. But I have a huge passion for horses. I have my entire life. And I have seemed to attract different HSPs in the HSP community that also have a passion for horses, and Mindy is one of them. And I'll just let her tell her story with horses and just kind of how she got to where she's at. She calls herself an equine guided coach, and she also is going to help us connect a somatic experience with horses. And I'm really interested in getting into conversation about that because growing up around horses, I always knew I had to approach them from a very gentle, energetically grounded place. But I didn't know why. I just knew that horses picked up on everything. They picked up on fear. And so when I would connect with horses, it was always from a very sensitive place. So I'm really excited to talk about those different things. And then I'll just give a quick format of the room. We'll be talking here for the first half hour. Then we'll switch into discussion where you guys are welcome to come up on stage, ask questions, reflect on anything that was shared. And then in the last half hour, I'll let Mindy guide us through whatever practice makes sense for the conditions we have today. And I'm really excited about that as well. So with that being said, I will go ahead and just let Mindy introduce herself, and you can share anything about your background, and maybe, how horses came into your life. And then we'll dig into some more once you share. So this is Julie, and I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Julie. I love this room and this energy that you've created here. And you're so correct. It just seems like there's so many HSPs, highly sensitive persons that have a connection to horses. Just it seems to come up in the rooms and everything. And so I'm Mindy. Like Julie said, an equine guided coach. Horses came into my life about uh, a decade ago. And I would say they came into my life through dreams and just kind of daydreams. I think when you're younger, you're kind of more open to those things. And I kind of had always been thinking about horses, and it's so funny. And if you do get the book Riding Through It, that I shared my story in, it sounds cliche, but for me it was Black Beauty, and I was sitting on my grandmother's floor and I was watching that, and I think just the way that the author wrote about horses and things that maybe weren't as known, just the horse being a little bit more sensitive, and the different things that happened to them. And that's what the author was trying to get through, was that they really did have a deep story, and they were very feeling animals. I connected to that right away, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that's a different way of looking at it. um, and started take like everyone else, started taking riding lessons with my aunt. My aunt had a love of horses, and about a year, kind of had to study them, read as much as I could. My mom made a deal with me. A year later, she's like, "You can get your first horse." And so started looking. Um, had a trainer at the time, and I found a paint horse that came into my life that is my heart horse. I still have him today, and that's Kona. Um, and he's beautiful brown and white spots, and he's taught me so much. It's really hard to put a lot of this work into words, and I think it more is a sensation and a feeling. And I think that's what HSPs kind of get. I guess it kind of makes sense when it's more of a felt sensation. But yeah, when I look at Kona, that's like my heart outside of my body. um, but just growing up through very formative years of my life, horses were there, teaching me how to self-regulate. If I had a bad day, I'd go to the barn, start grooming on my horses. And the main thing is just, and through my work, I hear a lot of people that have fear, and fear is very valid and real. But the horses just ask that we acknowledge that, and that's how this work can be so potent, is just um, coming to them with things, but acknowledging it. Because they do live in the moment, and because they're very sensing and um, animals. That's really how they live, because they're prey animals. Um, so yeah, so I got my second horse soon after my first horse. That's Cash. That's who you see in the picture here, that I'm hugging. And I think that's kind of the energy that he embodies, is that fun loving um, energy. And I really worked through a lot of trauma with him, and not just his, it was kind of mine at the same time too. Um, so yeah, so I love what I do. I think it really does have a base in somatics, and really connecting with the mind and the body. And that's something that the horses help us with. And then we can take that work out into the world too. So this is Mindy, and I'm complete. Julie, if you want to ask me some questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Mindy. That was wonderful. My ears were perking when you said Black Beauty. I was obsessed with Black Beauty, of course. And the other movie that just was such a sensitive feeling movie for me was The Black Stallion. And that seriously, those movies just solidified my passion for horses. And just, it's almost like there's like a secret language, a sensitive understanding between a highly sensitive person and a horse that is so sensitive, like you mentioned. And I love that you also said you have gained so many lessons through horses. And I would love to hear more about that. And also how you brought this intersection of somatic healing and horses, and maybe just as you were deepening those lessons, you came to the conclusion for this next part of your journey, that healing part, and probably all those lessons led to the making up of your healing journey. And I think horses really are therapy for so many people. And I just wanted to also mention, sorry, I'm rambling here, but Elaine Aaron and Elaine Friend also run different equine therapy guided workshops or day shops or different programs. I know when I first learned I was an HSP, I learned that they did stuff with horses, and I was like, of course, that makes so much sense. So, and if you're not familiar with Elaine Aaron and Elaine Friend, Elaine Aaron is the one who pioneered the term highly sensitive person. She wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and all of my knowledge is based on her research and her scientific findings. And I'm just someone who absorbs a lot of information. So I love sharing what I learn from both of those people. So, anyway, my question, just to come back to that, is what are the lessons that you learned from horses, and how did you bridge into this somatic experience with them?
Such a great question. Um, so, I feel as though the lessons that I learned with them were always in perfect timing. Um, I, might come to the barn with, just as a general, I'll get into some specifics too, but I might come to the barn with, oh, I want to ride my horse, or have some certain goal in mind and expectation. And I come there and, I've had a bad day, or I'm angry, or, and the horse senses that and picks up on that and is like, you're not really owning it. And so it would totally change, right? I wouldn't be riding. I'd probably be sitting there meditating, or like having to own something. So I think the getting in touch with my feelings was a really big one. And I would say, coming from a chaotic home environment, the horses helped me kind of return to myself and center myself. So owning what I was feeling in the moment, and just really, taking accountability for that. And um, what else? I think just them being powerful mirrors to, the different states that we're in. They help you to kind of fully own that, and to provide those reflections. And I think it's the same. That's kind of why I've married the coaching with the horses too, because, I'm sure too, Julie, things come up in a coaching session, and you kind of just have to flow with what's there and what's being presented. And with the horses living in the moment, they provide that potent examination. Whereas, maybe doing talk therapy or doing something of that sort, you might not get to the core of it as quickly. Um, so definitely the emotional intelligence, that piece of it. And I'll tell you one quick story of, this is actually in the book, Riding Through It, with my horse Cash. So um, Cash, kind of at a time, he was in with a kind of harsher trainer, I could say, and I didn't know it at the time. But I came a few times to the barn, and he kind of had his head tied back, and it looked really uncomfortable, and he was going around in really tight circles. And he had some dish, so this is weird, but it's weird to even think about it right now, but some dish soap on his back, legs, and it was supposedly to help him jog, which is a gait for a Western horse, jog a lot slower. And this horse's like sire, his father is a world champion. So I was like, okay, he's known for his jog. I was like, there's something off here, right? So I kind of had to, I could tell just by being close to him and spending time with him that there was a deep sadness there. And I'm like, these were mentors in the horse world and people that I was looking up to. So I kind of, trusted them. And I had to sense into that. I had to say, okay, this isn't right. This isn't right for me. It's not right for my horse. And I, pulled him out of that situation, and I could feel, um, as soon as I load him up on that trailer, I could feel just the sigh of relief. And I was like, okay, is that for me or is that for my horse? Right. It's just like, wow. Um, and just trusting your intuition through the whole journey. Another time of a lesson that Cash taught me, um, I was at a big show, Pennsylvania 4-H state show. So I did 4-H and showed him through a lot of different levels, county, district, states. I got to the state show. It was the first time I'd ever been there. I was so nervous at the time. Um, Walked into this big indoor arena. There was 15 horses, at least 15 horses in the class, and the arena as you ride around is right at the horse's eye level, and there was kids with like plastic bags and peacock feathers, and it was just a very like nerve-wracking situation. And my horse felt, as soon as I went into that arena, my horse's muscles tensed up because my muscles were also tensing up, and I was also feeling, a lot of fear, and was scared. And I knew at least 2 laps around the ring that I had to retire. And I came into the middle and, just let him wait until everything was done. And, it was a moment where I had a chance. I kind of had to own up to it. I had to face that fear of like, okay, not comfortable for me, not comfortable for my horse. Do we push past this fear, or do we own it and, meet it for where we are in the moment? And that's exactly what we did. And Cash presented me with that opportunity. So, um, it's just like there's so many little learning opportunities that they give us, and those are just a few of the things that I've learned.
I love it. And one of the things that I really want to hit on is that horses require us to live in our bodies and be present to the feelings and emotions that we're feeling. Like that is huge. And I think for so many highly sensitive people, we can often numb out or disassociate from our body because we sense and feel things so deeply, and that can be traumatizing. It can be too much. It's overstimulating, it's overwhelming. And I know exactly, just remembering back to my childhood, my time with horses was definitely therapy for a little HSP kid who didn't know she was an HSP and didn't have parents who knew what to do with my emotions and my big feelings. And I remember one time sitting in a car with my mom, and I think it was a genuine, authentic question. And she said, "Why do you like riding horses so much?" And I was honestly riding horses by myself when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I was very young, and I I grew up in the 80s. I would ride my 10-speed bike across the railroad tracks up to the first farm and ride horses all weekend by myself. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but somehow they trusted me. I was mature for my age. I handled myself well, but we would just get on horses and ride, with the halter. Like I would hold on to the mane. I remember one time we got stuck in quicksand with a little pony, and I almost watched this little pony die. And one time we were in the woods, there was a pack of wild dogs, and we were on horseback. And there was just all these things that were really heavy and intense for a little kid growing up. And I grew up in Iowa. So if you're wondering, I did grow up on just the edge of town. So it wasn't that I lived in the middle of nowhere, but I was very close to the edge. So I kind of had both worlds. And my area quickly developed into a lot of cookie cutter houses. So I watched the area really develop. And those farms dwindled away, but there was always this little pony that lived across the street from me. And that's how I met a girl who was actually on a horse and asked if the pony was mine. And she was the daughter of the farm up the hill. And that's how I got into horseback riding on a pretty regular basis as a young person. Um, and I just can really relate to those lessons, and I can go back to those memories very easily. They're very ingrained in my mind. So I just love this conversation. And um, I just think, there is just a bit of magic with horses, and I don't know what that is, or maybe you have some ideas about it, Mindy, but and again, maybe it's just me being biased towards sensitivity and creatures and people who tap into their sensitivity and can be present to those feelings and emotions. Because I think that's the way that we live through ourselves versus stuffing things down or trying to not feel all of those things that we feel. So that's the beauty of horses, I think, is just having that ability to trust our feelings and emotions, because as we feel them, the horse, like you said, is mirroring everything. And so when you pulled away from that arena to give your nervous system and your horse's nervous system a break, those are the things that stick with you. And you remember in the future that leaning into that, isn't a failure. It's just a lesson that you have to learn so that you can better take care of yourself in the future. So I love the intersection of horses and healing and being in your body and feeling and being connected to the present moment. It's wisdom to me. So what else do you want to share about your book? What exactly was your approach for the book? Did you just share different stories? I know it was a collaborative effort, but how did you get involved with that? And I also meant to say, Mindy, if it's not too much multitasking, you can also add a link to your book or your website or anything that you'd like to share. And you can do that by tapping on the three dots on the top right, and you'll see a way to add a link. So if you want to share that with everyone here, you can add it to the room. But I would just love to hear your approach with the chapter that you wrote in the book and how you were connected with the people that created the book. This is Julie, and I'm complete.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Julie. So, um, Nikki Porter is the name of the program. I guess she was in charge of the whole project of writing through it, and she did. She has a book called The Conscious Communicator, and it's about some stories of hers with horses and how she came up through Pony Club and spent a lot of time learning from horses as well. And she in 2020 she did a collaborative book herself where she shared a chapter with a bunch of other women, and someone else was the project lead. She's like, I think I can do this, but I'd really love to share stories of equestrian women that have been transformed by horses, and whatever that looks like. And she put out a graphic on Instagram, and I had been connected with her just through the horse world, and I think she was a part of another room here on Clubhouse too. Is kind of how I learned of her. And she said she wanted stories full of feel and honesty and just really talking about what horses have led us through. And that's why the title is called Riding Through It. And it's Nikki Porter and then 16 other equestrian co-authors that kind of came together to bring this works into the world. And I'll tell you, just I knew the gist of everyone else's story, but reading through it, I mean, it just takes you on a roller coaster ride of emotions of just different things. And it's not even just about horses. So my story kind of recounts my whole journey. I just wanted to do kind of an overview, the same thing like you asked before, Julie, different lessons that the horses have taught me. And my chapter is called Following the Feel. So how my horses have helped me connect to my intuition, and um, just really just what a magical ride it's been. I think that's how I end the chapter. And just to be connected with other feeling, I think some of these co-authors are also highly sensitive people too. Maybe they don't know it, but when you read their chapter, you can kind of see the depth that they put into it. And yeah, I'll definitely share the link. Yeah, but it's available on Amazon. Um, yeah, it's called Riding Through It. It's a great book.
Awesome. And I love books that are compilations because you get so many different perspectives. And like you said, it was a, feeling book. And I think, just those connections that we have with horses really, it varies between every individual, but I think that feeling, I know exactly what you mean, that horses bring is exciting to witness in a book, in a collection of stories. So I'm really excited for you. And I will try and hunt down the link on Amazon if you're not able to figure that out, but I'd love to share the link here too. And one of the questions I wanted to ask here before we switch into discussion, I'm going to get back to my original questions, were, when did you first learn about the term highly sensitive person? I mean, I know we usually have a sense of, knowing we are something and never having the right label for it. But did you actually hear about the term from a friend, a therapist, a book, or the website, or the internet? How did you first learn about the term? And was it a light bulb moment for you?
Yes, it definitely was. I would say probably when I was probably in my teen years, just kind of being on, I feel like I've always been a seeker. I've always been kind of on that self-discovery journey. So I think probably just in my research, I read an article about it. And Julia, you definitely opened up my eyes a little bit more to the research base around it. But I think growing up, I always kind of knew there was something, right? I'd it's funny. I'd like walk into a store or do something, and I'm always like wanting to feel things. I'm always like sensing things through my hands, and I'm always like laying my hands on horses and different animals and things. And I was like, okay, there's something there. There's something, there's something there. And I think the HSP term has really opened up a lot more, and been like, okay, there's other people that have this trait, and helped me connect to myself and the world.
And did you get a sense of the term right away? Were you self accepting of yourself at that point in life? Or did knowing you were a highly sensitive person allow for more self acceptance, knowing that it's a scientifically based, innate biological trait? Is because I hear a lot of different HSPs that might hear about the term, but they don't really dig into it, or it's like a long time for them to be accepting that it's a positive thing versus a struggle or something to get rid of even. And I was just curious where you were at in your journey and how your journey has been shaped by learning about the term.
Yeah, I do think it helped me be more accepting around it, to have that knowledge, and to know, like you said, it is a biological trait. And I think that's how my journey with the horses really opened that up too, because they themselves are highly sensitive, and being a prey animal, they're always sensing into their environment what's going on, um, and that's how they live their life. So I think, having that knowledge is really helpful for sure, and just on my journey of accepting myself and how I am. um, yeah, and another huge thing that's helped me too, other than the highly sensitive trait, is also human design. I recently just learned I'm a projector, and just learning more about that because it's a small percentage. I don't know if you know the percentage, Julie, but it's a small percentage of the world that actually that is a projector, and that's sort of like, okay, it makes me, it feels confirming, whatever that looks like, and you're just like, okay, that's something to note and something to consider. Yeah, for sure.
I'm over here chuckling, Mindy, for a couple reasons. One, human design is why this club even exists. It's why I joined Clubhouse, is knowing that I needed to use my voice. So I always give it up to human design for finally getting, my voice out there and talking about this trait. And the other thing I'm laughing about is Tanya in the audience is huge on human design, and she's also a projector. And Whitney, who was doing, oh my gosh, the first 6 months, just me and her doing Highly Sensitive People Unite every single Thursday at 11 a.m. She is a projector as well. And at the very beginning in Clubhouse, so I joined in literally joined January 1st, 2021, but I didn't get active until mid January, and there were so many rooms all about human design. It was just a human design everything, because back in the day you didn't have a huge hallway, you didn't have a huge selection, and the topics were very consolidated, and there were so many people talking about human design. So in the first podcast that I was on was a person that I met through Amy Porterfield's DCA course, and she was teaching different parents about human design, because ultimately that was what I heard recently. The history behind it is that it was created to teach parents on how to basically not shit on your kids, like basically how to kind of get through all of your BS so that you didn't pass it on to your kids, and to connect with your kids in a very conscientious way, so that you weren't approaching your designs and causing friction, but rather having connection through that design. So I've been blown away by human design. If anyone in here is interested in human design, we're actually doing a room next week, January 6th. You can check by clicking on the little green house on the top. There is more rooms coming for January, but there is quite a list now. And on January 6th, we'll be doing a room on human design and tips for highly sensitive people. And my friend Allison Cullen will be there to kind of guide us. And if you're interested in human design, you should definitely check out that room. I'm excited about it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mindy, because that has definitely been a huge influence for me as well. Human design, knowing I'm a light worker and what type, and being a highly sensitive person, and really owning it, owning my gifts as a HSP, and designing my lifestyle in accordance to my biology, instead of, um, you know, trying to fit in and do what society or a culture says we need to do. So being an HSP is living a very creative life, in my opinion. So we have to get creative so that we can take care of ourselves and our nervous system. But we will open up the room here for discussion. I have hand raising turned on, so you all are welcome to jump up here on stage and ask questions or reflect on anything that was discussed, or bring up something connected to horses. I'd love to hear from you and see what you were getting out of the conversation. And if no one jumps up right away, I will definitely just ask some more questions. Um, but let's see. You said you were a projector. I just wanted to make sure that I was remembering that correctly. And when did you learn about human design, Mindy?
So I learned from a coach, a mentor that I had about human design. It was kind of part of her program, Path to Purpose that she had, and I was like, whoa! I think it really just blew me away, the whole concept. So I'm really excited about the room, the HSP room that you have going, Julie, because I want to join that. I think it's really gonna shine a lot of light for HSPs.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And it's something that it's like there's so many layers. So I'm still learning all the different things. And Tanya jumped up here and I totally misspoke. She's not a projector, but I'll let her speak. Thanks for being here, Tanya.
No worries, Julie. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I always love to come into this room and listen to all of the very unique conversations that are had and learn new things. Um, and I found this topic just very fascinating. Just listening to Mindy share her journey of how, like, what I heard from it and what I took away from it is just how she learned how to tap into, trusting herself, like trusting her intuition and trusting what she was feeling. Sorry, I'm getting emotional for some reason. But just how, I guess, how beautiful it is when we can. I apologize. I don't know where the emotions are coming from. Nonetheless, I just found it very beautiful. Um, to hear the experience of what your journey has looked like, Mindy, and how you've continued. Like, I find it fascinating as well as a projector that you're a projector from the standpoint of, you know, um, it sounds like you've never lived a traditional life, right? Being a projector, as you well know, projectors don't have like consistent access to energy all the time. So it's like projectors need to really honor that for themselves. And so finding what you love and what moves you while also honoring how you're energetically created and wired. So I just wanted to express that. And Julie did make a little mistake, and that's totally okay. We're all human. I'm a generator. I'm a sacral generator. And so it's no worries. I'm not holding, I'm not upset about that, but I just wanted to make that correction. And this is Tanya, and I'm complete.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm over here chuckling. I don't know why I had it in my mind you were a projector. But yeah, thanks for the clarification. And you don't have to ever apologize about crying. I honestly started choking up the minute I said the black stallion because there's a scene in that movie where I'm just like completely swept up in the Arabian Egyptian style music and just the like there's so much room for imagination in that film. It's just such a well done movie and it just makes me feel very sensitive. So I get the emotional load. Maybe you're sensing that from the other horse lovers in the room. And I'm glad we're exposing you to something new that you can learn about because this has definitely been a topic that has gotten brought up in multiple rooms that weren't dedicated to horses, but always seems to kind of come up. So I'll let Mindy respond here and mute myself.
Yes, thank you so much for that share, Tanya. That, like, it's so true. Just learning how to navigate the horse world and the outside world, being a projector, and it requires a lot of time with my horses. For me, it really does. Being out in nature and sensing into my body, um, and that's actually a practice I'm excited to do with you guys. We're gonna do a quick body scan a little bit later. Um, but thank you so much for your share. Very beautiful.
Yay. And I would love to pass the mic off to Fabienne. What would you like to share, or do you have a question? This is Julie, and I'm complete.
Hi, Julie, Mindy, everyone. So good to be together. First of all, I just want to place in the room that I'm just really grateful for this room, which has been one of the blessings of 2021. And I see Christine here with us, and she's been a blessing for me too. I was just thinking about her recently and had not connected recently. But what I wanted to share about this topic specifically is I think it was you, Julie, who said, as an HSP kid, but you didn't know you were a kid, like horses really help you, and that really clicked in something for me because specifically with horses, it came later for me, but that I was already like very much regulating with. animals and dogs and cats and babies, but I didn't really even put it into words until today that that was already a way of regulating the HSP. So thank you for that insight. And then with horses specifically, they have been like several steps into that journey. And unfortunately, even now it's been a couple of years, but I have a dear friend who is doing coaching with horses, and I spent one day with her and her horses in Quebec. It was a couple of years ago. And to this day, when I reconnect to that experience of doing the work with that horse, it still helps me to remember that. And I don't have currently horses or even pets, so I'm really grateful to have some of the other practices now from HSP. But it's just so interesting that there is this conduit, and I'm looking forward to the body scan, Mindy, and what you're going to guide us through without quote unquote needing to have the animals with us. And I know we have progressively had more practices, but and just deep gratitude. And thank you for the room throughout the year and for today. This is Fabienne. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabienne. It's so good to see you. I'm so honored to hear that this room made a difference and an impact in 2021 for you. That means a lot because there's been a lot that's happened in 2021, and really being here on a weekly basis has been therapy for me. It's forced me to grow and to heal in ways that I wasn't expecting. So just know that your presence here is also very healing and appreciated as well. So thank you again for being here. Mindy, is there anything that you wanted to share, or would we like to move to the next person?
I just love to hear how the equine guided coaching has helped you, and just that, you know, what you got from it was so impactful. I want to reiterate that because it's so big, and it's such a felt sense. You know, as I say that, I get tingles. You know, it it's so impactful, and I love that it has had that impact on you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Fabian.
just thank you for that return back. Thank you so much.
And I'd love to pass the mic. Is it Vanjie? Am I saying the name correctly? This is Julie, and I'm complete.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, that's perfect. Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. Unfortunately, I have to drop off in 15 minutes, so I'm sorry if I miss anything you do, Mindy, but thank you for, I was just here to listen and learn. This room is just validation that I'm on the right path myself. This is the first time hearing about highly sensitive people. I follow Mindy and saw she was in this room, so I love everything I'm hearing, and I can it totally resonates with me. 2021 has been a journey home back to myself, a journey of self-care and self-love. So I'm able now to embrace that I am sensitive. My entire life has been in survival mode, and as a mother and wife, I became a robot and never was in tune to my sensitivity. I had to be numb to my emotions just to get by. So in my journey, I try to reconnect to my childhood joys, which was horses, and I thought that looked like riding. Here in Baltimore, Maryland, it's big on eventing and racing. So the trainers that I was finding online were not intuitive to those emotional connections that I was looking for. And after like my third lesson, I realized it's not about riding that I want. I just want to be around them, and I was understanding that I was or starting to realize that I was getting a different learning experience being in their presence. So Thankfully, I found Mindy and her community, and I back channeled you guys the podcast that talks about the book and interviews people from the book. And you won't believe how many of those ladies don't own horses. The experience they got was just from their quick interactions on lessons or visiting the farm. And that was extremely validating for me since I'm not in the horse world all the time. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you for letting me speak.
I love you, Vanjie. Thanks for being here. And thanks for being on the journey back to your heart and back to yourself. And I'm happy to be your guide. Love you.
Love you too. Thanks.
Sorry for the pause, guys. Sometimes I love the pauses, though. I was trying to grab the link, Mindy. I think I have the right one, so I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Kristen and see if I can get that up here on the top of the room. Good to see you, Kristen. Happy New Year. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to you.
Great. Thanks so much for the warm welcome. It's so lovely to be here. I have a room at the same time, so I often can't make it to your room, but I'm so glad to be able to be here today. And when I saw the topic of horses, I was like, everybody just stop. I need to go into this room because I wanted to hear what everyone has to say. But it's so funny because yesterday, as I was kind of getting myself ready for 2022, and um, I'm an energy medicine practitioner, so I was kind of getting my services together, and I was like, I'm just going to do the energy of pets because I love working with animals. Sometimes they're a little easier to work with than humans. So it was so funny. I was thinking about horses, and I just wanted to share a quick story of an experience that I had. So we have a ranch actually, and we don't have horses of our own, but we do interact with all the horses of our neighbors, and the kids are riding, and we go to dude ranches to hang out with the horses and do trail rides and stuff like that. So I have had healing clients that were horses before, and I would just wanted to say, from an energetic standpoint, horses are like the best clients when it comes to energy medicine. And I often, when people ask me, like, why is that? I just have to say, like, I've done some thinking around it, so I just kind of wanted to share that. But um, we were at a dude ranch where we were getting ready for a trail ride, and overnight a whole bunch of horses had gotten sick, and they had that crazy colored phlegm that was just endless coming out of their noses and out of their throats. And a bunch of us didn't have horses for the trail ride, so we threw the kids on the horses, and I said, let me come down to the pasture and just see what I can see. And it was amazing how the horses are just so steady and calm, and they're fully present. So for me, the energy of horses and how it pertains to like our sensitive nature as not only highly sensitive people but energy sensitive people. Um, there was one horse named Kevin, and he just walked right over to me, and I sat on one of those bowed out fences, and he came over and he just rested his head on my shoulder, and I swear he said to us, like, we are here to serve you. We are here because, our illness is bringing expansion and wisdom to everybody involved with us. And it was almost like how the Egyptians worship cats. I almost felt like that was their persona, right? Like the horses were here. They're here to teach and to serve, and they're so steady and they are so present, and they're not focused on action. So it was literally just being in their presence was enough for me to ground and to settle and to return to a state of wholeness. And they weren't even doing anything, right? It was just they had this way of coming over and just holding space um, for us to do our own healing and to us to remember and all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, I wanted to share that experience because I always think back and say the best client I've ever had was a horse named Kevin. And then also too, we've seen with the kids, and Mindy, I haven't really looked at your profile, but I know that in our area of Northern California, there are a lot of horse therapy places that cater to children and cater to children with behavioral challenges, with learning differences. And again, it's just being in the presence of the horse. And they are not doing anything. All you're doing is being with them energetically for these highly sensitive kids who are struggling to make their way through this world as it's set up right now. It's just a way to reset. So anyway, I love this topic so much, and I just wanted to share. So thank you for having me. This is Kristen. I yield the mic.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Kristen. Honestly, when you were sharing it, just made me want to tear up because I understand as my process and how I was around horses as a child. It was exactly what you said. I felt very grounded. I felt very just in that moment. Like you said, it wasn't about doing or action, which is another part of my personality that has always been, driving me forward. But being present and being in the energy of horses, you can't force it, you can't rush it. It is a slowing down process. And so I just chuckled too. Who names their horse Kevin? People are so comical about the the names they choose for their animals, but I love it. Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah, and this is probably going a little bit too deep down the rabbit hole of energy, but this dude ranch we were at, they were mostly rescued horses, and his name wasn't actually Kevin. That when they rescued him, they gave him a name. They had no idea who he was, but as I was treating him, I just kept calling him Kevin, and um, the wrangler was like, "Why are you calling this horse Kevin?" And I was like, "Isn't that his name?" And he went back and he looked and he was like, at some point in all, as they were passing through the whole rescue thing, somebody had named him Kevin. And for me, energetically, what I was getting from him was that just the horse liked that name, liked the vibration of it, liked the how it connected him to humans. So again, a little over the top in terms of energetic and information exchange that happens on a subtle level. But I was surprised too at the name Kevin because I think Kevin is becoming like the male version of Karen in our society. So it was interesting to me that the horse had this sense of humor and had really latched onto the vibration of that. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
That's awesome. And I love how, just energetically, all the hands that it passed through, maybe the horse really liked that person named Kevin. I think that's kind of a cool, energetic connection. So I'll let Mindy reply here.
I love it. um, just the whole experience and my horses at times too. I think as you're saying, Kristen, too, just the quality of the presence that they bring and the being and the not doing. They so quickly will be, grazing, eating grass, and then they look up, something catches their eye, and they just as quickly go back to rest and digest, just like that, just at the snap of a finger. And that being is just something that we can learn from. Um, and there is no doing. There is nothing to do. It's really just the quality of you being there, and just by being present, um, things can change. And the horses teach us that. And I love Kevin. I don't know. It makes me think of a minion. That's the first thing I think in my mind is Kevin the minion. Um, but yeah, my horses definitely send me messages, and I have witnessed the most amazing things happen with children and horses. I think just the openness, um, that the children bring, and I work with men and women that are in addiction recovery, and we do workshops. And I actually just recently last year got to lead a children's workshop that children affected by addiction, and the way that just being around the horses helps them open and um, discover and get creative. They were finger painting a mini horse and just having the most fun of their life with it. And it warms my soul. So thank you for sharing, Kristen.
I just love that horses have so many gifts to offer us, and there are so many different types of people that can benefit, not just highly sensitive people, but like you mentioned, addiction recovery and um, yeah, just different populations that have been either marginalized or forced to shut down emotionally, or just haven't been able to connect with their inner guidance system, their feelings and emotions, for whatever reason. And horses just really bring that out in us. There's just no denying it. Like Kristen said, just being around the horses, you don't have to do anything with them other than to just be present with them. So that's just so beautiful. And I, again, just love horses. So thanks for sharing this conversation with us today. And if no one else wants to hop up here and ask a question, I'd be more than happy to roll into the practice, Mindy, if you're comfortable with that.
Yes, I'm ready.
Great. So if you want to just get us set up, or whatever you need to share for us to feel successful in the practice.
Okay. So through this body scan, it's just sort of a active meditation. I would love you guys to maybe pull to refresh. I did change my picture here on Clubhouse to be my two horses, and I want to invite them into the space to help, hold the energy for us here. Um, the paint on the left, that's Kona, and the brown horse on the right, Sorrel, that's Cash. And just I would ask everyone to have an open heart and an open mind as we go through this. So if everyone is feeling ready, let's jump in. So I would ask that everyone start by getting comfortable, possibly in a seated position. That's where I'm at right now. If you want to lie down on your back, that's fine too. However you feel most comfortable. So the gate is open now. The horses are here with us, and we've been talking about the space that they hold and the presence. So I want you to sense into that, feel that they are here with us. Any specific horse that has had an impact in your life that you can connect to would be great. And just close down your eyes and feel into the bottoms of your feet. So the soles of your feet resting upon the earth right now. Um, does it feel cold? Are your feet cold? Are they warm? See if we can bring some warmth into them. Maybe wiggle your toes a little bit, spread out your toes in your shoes or your socks, whatever it is. Really feel the connection to the earth. And remembering that you are held. So slowly move your attention to your ankles, maybe bringing some movement to them, maybe letting them rest. Taking a deep breath, move up into your shins and your calves. And just release any tension that you might be holding here. There's no need to put any labels on anything. We're just being and just feeling what it feels like to be in our bodies. Moving up to the knees. Maybe placing your hands on your knees. I know sitting, I can do that easily. Seeing what the quality of that joint feels like. moving into the thighs now, and then into the pelvis. So this is a big energy center, really what connects you. And so feeling into that, bringing some movement into it. I know the horses, they carry our bodies, and especially our pelvis, and it really helps us to sense into things and to remember things. So feel what your pelvis feels like. If there's any pressure, tension, just identify the sensation that's coming up for you. Moving up into your upper body, your stomach, maybe placing your hands on your stomach. Now moving up into your heart. This is a place that really helps us connect, and through this room, we've been able to share our hearts with each other, and that's where the presence comes from. It's not always what we're saying, but how we're being, and if we're living with an open heart, that's what we want. Sensing into that, is there any messages maybe that's coming up from your heart? This is a very active area. Now moving up into your throat chakra. Sometimes with this, there's a noise that wants to come out, and that's okay. Let it. We're going to move up into the face. Any muscles that might need some relaxing here. I know I like to use my thumb and my pointer finger to kind of massage around, say your chin, kind of lifting up. This is a place where we hold a lot of tension. So just relaxing that and seeing what you can, if there's a certain taste in your mouth or a certain smell that you can smell, connecting to those senses that are here, that are available to you. You might want to bring some movement into your neck, side to side. And then I'm going to ask you now to bring your hands straight up over your head, taking a really deep breath here from the bottom of your lungs, making sure that your belly expands to let that air fully into your lungs. And release. Now feeling kind of the top of your head, maybe placing your hands on the top of your head. This is sort of our auric field that comes out from here, and maybe your hands kind of come up and out like a fountain, and there's a white light that protects you and your entire body, coming out from your head, going all the way back down to the bottoms of your feet. So slowly, on your own time, you can open your eyes, taking a few more deep breaths in and out. And coming back to the present moment and seeing seeing differently, sensing differently, things that maybe came up. And I would love for anyone that feels comfortable to share their experience. Maybe a horse visited you, maybe there was a sensation, a certain thing. I would love to connect in that space. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed the practice.
Thank you so much, Mindy. I really enjoyed it. I would love to share a little bit of my experience. And it might sound really weird, but I'm going to share it. So, when we were going through the practice, and you mentioned tuning into our senses, what are we smelling? What are we tasting? What's the taste in our mouth? Um, I tuned into my smell first, and I actually smelled my new pillow. And it's not a bad smell. It's just, it smells like my new pillow. And I was laying down, by the way. And then I tuned in to the taste in my mouth. And the first words that popped up into my head as I brought awareness to that taste was envelope glue. And I know that sounds really weird, but I know a lot of people have said, well, okay, let me back up here. I was like, why am I thinking, or why is my mouth tasting like the glue that if you were to lick an envelope, that's what it tastes like to me? And then I'm thinking, okay, the word glue, what does glue have to do with that? And I remember my grandpa was a farmer, and he farmed cattle and corn. And I grew up in Iowa. So those are very typical things to grow. But he said something, because I remember as a little girl loving horses and like, why doesn't grandpa have horses? And I think my mom heard him say at one time, and then she repeated to me, that my grandpa said horses weren't good for anything other than glue. And so I'm putting my thought through this, and I'm like, oh, is my grandma Becker or my grandpa Becker trying to connect with me? So I just wanted to say all that out loud, because that was my thought process with that. So maybe that's heavy and deep for some people, but that's where my head went.
That is so interesting, Julie. And I guess for me, what it brings up is kind of the stories that we have around horses too, right? Like they're only hay burners, they're only good for glue, right? And we have all these stories, but what happens when we release those stories and we get into the body and we sense things and we see the horses with new eyes? What do they bring to the space then? So I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I really just as I've learned more about myself, my sensitivities, and my connection to the unseen, and my willingness to connect with my spirit guides, they always show up in really interesting ways. So I just another lesson to not necessarily take things literally, but maybe connect the dots. I think HSPs are really good at that. So I would love to hear anyone else's experience or anything you'd like to share after going through that practice. I'll go ahead and mute myself.
Hi, this is Fabienne. I'll be happy to share. First of all, Mindy, thank you for inviting us to invite the energy of the horses with us, because I blew up your picture with the two horses and then let you know the energy of some of the horses that I have known. What what surprised me, but then of course it doesn't really, is that as well as the positive, I also started to feel like some of the fears at other times that had happened, including with horses. So I was just present with that ability to also, even now, they can help me release some of the fears that I'm sure is not just related to the horses now with what I know of the bigger picture, but some fears that were mirrored back to me, right? So and but the scanning itself was relaxing, and it was just at the beginning when you invited us those energy, I was like, oh, I could feel it was a combination of energy, and I never really thought about bringing animal energy that way in meditation or practice. So that was really interesting. Thank you, Mindy. This is Fabienne. I'm complete.
Thanks for sharing, Fabian. You know, as Julie said, today it's raining here and it's very muddy, so I can't be in the pasture with the horses, but I think at all times since they work on that vibration plane, we can really bring their energy into anything that we're going through, or that we want to experience. So yeah, they teach us that it's not quite always the time and the space. It really knows no time or space. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabienne, for sharing your experience and reflecting on this process. And you brought up the word fear, and it made me think of um, I feel like there's two camps. There's, if you ask anyone that hasn't gone horseback riding or knows much about horses, you know, there is some people who have this fear perception around horses, or maybe they had a bad incident with a horse and that really left a bad taste in their mouth. But I was going to ask Mindy, what's your, um, I guess, advice or position on trying to help people who may have fears around horses dissolve that? Or, you know, obviously the person would have to be willing, but I just feel like there's sometimes people who just automatically have a fear for no reason. How would you kind of guide them into maybe being open to the gifts of horses instead of maybe something that was projected at them, or a thought or belief about a horse that has left them in more of a fear state?
Yeah, such a great question. I feel like I help people guide people through this a lot. And I think it really does come down to, you know, our emotions and different things that come up are there as messengers, and to get really curious about what that fear is. Sometimes there's something deeper there, or something that's being asked to be looked at. And I think, you know, because the horses are so powerful in the mirrors, sometimes we're like, I really don't know if I wanna look at that part, that's coming up, and that is like totally a valid thing, right? So it's like I'm never trying to brush away fear the same way that I own fear when I'm in that arena with Cash and I say, okay, I'm not, you know, I'm sensing in my body, this is what's coming up. I'm sensing, you know, what you're bringing to the table. How can we meet each other, you know, in a way that feels comfortable for both of us? And not pushing past it. That's the really thing. I think it's kind of boiling to the surface to be looked at, to be examined. And you know, maybe with the horses it might be over a fence, you know, any little thing that might make you feel more comfortable and to have a positive experience. I think we can take the energy of um you know, maybe things that, to get a little bit deep, but maybe things that, traumas or things that happen in our life, and we can change that into positive. We can change that into vital life energy. So just taking baby steps to move past it and to ask it why it's there.
I love that. And I think too, it's a very slow, sensitive approach. And I think that's why it really works for people who have had, you know, past negative experiences, or, you know, just don't really understand how to interact with a creature that's so much bigger than them, and just all those aspects. But I can just say from personal experience, I have been bucked off horses multiple times and gotten back up. I have been dragged through low hanging branch and thrown off a horse, and had the wind knocked out of me. So there's always, you know, incidents with horses because they are sensitive, you know, that maybe they were spooked, and I went along for the ride and I still got back up. But and that was even as like a young person. So there is something that draws me to them and knows there's a benefit beyond just kind of those things. And I think that's also how it has created a deeper sense of compassion, because, you know, I want to care for the horse. I want to regulate the horse as much as it regulates me. I want the ability to connect with energy that feels good. And if one of us is off, you know, we really help each other. So I think that's really cool. Um, and if we are at the end of our room here, before we all take off, I wanted to just give you some space and time, Mindy, to let people know about your book. How much does it cost? I mean, obviously we've got a link to Amazon, but if you're not clicking on that and just hearing the replay, can you let us know about the book? And is it a limited release, or, you know, where about can we find it? And is there anything else that you want to share with people about what you do around energy, and anything else that you want to promote? I'll let you do that. This is Julie and I'm complete.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for giving me the space. So, yeah, Riding Through It, Equestrian Women Tested and Transformed is available on Amazon. Paperback is $19.99 plus shipping, and I think it, you know, ships pretty quick. Depends on if you have Prime or not. But yeah, myself, I'm a co-author in the book and just sharing an overview of my story with horses, and um, you know, the other women share such powerful stories too. So, you know, if you're drawn to horses, or if it feels like it might be it's a really quick, easy read too, because each chapter you kind of pick it up and put it down. And yeah, the stories are full of feel and honesty, just as Nikki wanted, just as she created and manifested. So this book is so fantastic, and I'd recommend it for pretty much everyone, if you're feeling called towards it. I also do one-on-one sessions. So with my two horses that are pictured here, um, I kind of partner with them to, just as we did the body scan today, and we talked about things that were coming up, to guide people that want to come overcome different things in their life, or they want to experience a connection to something a little bit greater. And the energy work is a part of it too. The horses help with that, just like we invited them here. So connect with me on Instagram. You can send me a message here on the back channel, would be great too. I keep an eye out for a website coming soon. It'll be mindylschneider.com. But yeah, Instagram is the place to stay connected with me. And thank you guys so much for the space, and for engaging. I love it. Take care.
Thank you so much, Mindy. And I'm really excited about your book, and I'll have to definitely order it too. I didn't know if there was like shipping delays or anything because of the way the world is these days. But yeah, my partner has Amazon Prime, so I could probably get it very quickly. Um, so yes, I'm really grateful for having this conversation. I'm so glad that we were able to do a little deeper dive on horses and why, you know, their sensitivity is so relatable as a highly sensitive person, and how their sensitivity can be used for healing and growth and opening up and being present and feeling our feelings and emotions, and learning all these wonderful lessons that Mindy shared with us today. So if you're new to horses, or you've been around horses, or you're listening to this as a replay and you're just curious about horses, there's just so much there. And I encourage everyone to connect with a horse in the physical whenever you can. I grew up in Iowa, and this is where I'm at now. And there are smaller and smaller avenues to horses. I don't see as many horse farms as I used to, but I always just appreciate seeing a horse and connecting, even if it's just from across a barbed wire fence. And we're in winter, so that won't be happening in the near future. But I just, yes, connecting with a horse and being present, even if you're not riding them, is just a wonderful treat. So thanks again for being here, Mindy, and sharing your gift and creating this practice for us to just really calm down and regulate our nervous system and check in with our body and listen to those inner, tugs, our intuition trying to tell us something. So this really cool. I'm glad this is recorded so other people can enjoy that as well. So, and thanks for Fabienne and Tanya and all of you listening in the audience. The listening lounge is just as wonderful and valuable. We appreciate you. And if you're not yet following the HSP Club, make sure you click on the little green house. I am adding new rooms all the time, and I'm really excited about January. And the different topics are really meaningful to me, and I'm very passionate about them. And I'm just excited to learn and grow and share resources with everyone here and build this HSP community in a really loving way. So again, your time and commitment to show up here means a lot. And thanks everyone. And I hope everyone enjoys a safe and restful New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And you can take some quiet time to just be. So if you have any final words, Mindy, I'll let you close out the room. And it's so good to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great New Year's.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.